Natalia on Luxury with Natalia. I'm joined today by Henry Cookson, all the way in England. How are you, Henry?
Given current circumstances, fine, actually. Yeah, all in good spirits, and yeah, everything's all right, thank you.
Everything's good. Well, you're the kind of guy who gets people excited about going away and adventures. Of course, Cookson Adventures is a wonderful company that's been around since 2009, offering these never unforgettable experiences, and that's something you specialize in and your team. But what's happening now with everything? We're all stuck at home, and is your business still going? What's going on?
So no, we shut up shop and we've given up. Corona's defeated us. No, it's the whole world is in the same boat. It's unprecedented, but at some point life will carry on, and life has to carry on. So we've taken the necessary steps to ensure that the company is shored up and secure for if and when there is a when. We just don't know when that if is. Things start to get better. There's two big problems here. We obviously have the virus itself, and then we have the economy, and then getting back to whatever sense of normality that can be. And if everyone gives up the ghost, then that impact to the financial side of it, the economic side of it, which will affect people, food on the table, shelters over their head, will be increased to a huge magnitude. So I think it's very important that we keep positive. I think it's really important that we prepare for the potential long-term effects of this, but also prepare for what's happening on the other side of it. And so with the team that we have, we're looking to the future. We're going back, we're looking at old projects, we're looking at ideas of traveling, things that were sort of those little conversations that scribble on a post-it note that never actually came into fruition. So I suppose we're going back, and I suppose we give a gardening terminology, analogy. We're picking up those seeds again, we're putting them in some really fertile soil and letting them sprout. And then hopefully in time they'll bear some delicious fruit.
I love it, and I'm very much impressed by what you're doing on your social media as well, keeping those dreams alive. And absolutely, all these little seedlings that were sprouting and sort of forgotten are now coming back, and especially remoteness and solitude, these places that have perhaps more something to offer than more places that we've been familiar with, and where lots of people are always in the same spot. So tell us a bit more about what those places might be.
So I suppose I've always swum against the current, and for me the ideal thing about going away is having a sense of originality, a sense of uniqueness, and doing something a bit away from other people. There are those staples that everyone will do and continue to do, whether it's party islands in the Mediterranean, or if it's going up a mountain during the ski season. And that's something that people will continue to do. But also, I think, what's going through now, people are going to reflect a little bit more. And yep, you've got the Mediterranean, if you're European based, on your doorstep. You've got the Alps, if you're from the US. You've got other places that you can go to every summer, Easter, Christmas of your life. But it's a huge, great world there. And the frustration that I've always had, we think our own mindset, and I think it's insanity for people to do the same routine thing over and over again. Yeah, it's fun, it's great, but every so often I think you should get out of your comfort zone a bit and go and look at something else. And over time I've realized, okay, we're all made differently. We all have a different priority and what we like. But I think the enormity of the situation we've just had is I think giving people a pause for thought and say, okay, well, what am I going to do next time I go away? Yeah, I can go and hang out in some shishi bar or some shishi club. How much meaning does that really have? It serves a purpose. It does something. But, the time that we have away, we all work very hard. That's, I think, some of the most important time that we'll ever have. And to share precious moments and really extraordinary, exquisite places with friends and family, or even on your own. We have people who travel on their own with us. That's something that you can never take away. Even with all that hard work, and you obtain huge, beyond imagination riches. There's only so much assets that you can actually accumulate. Another car, another house, another boat, another jet, another jewelry collection, another piece of art. Eventually that stuff, it doesn't, the meaning becomes less and less. The return on that emotional investment, whatever the serotonin hit you get, becomes less. So the world is infinite. Traveling is infinite. The experiences, the cultures, the different wildlife is just, it's unending. And to be able to see those and appreciate the world around us, our home that we are tragically destroying at a very rapid pace. Well, maybe now people will pause, they'll reconnect and they'll want to go and see these things, and then maybe they'll help contribute in a positive way. It's at the moment it's a totally non-balanced relationship. We go and take from the earth, we see its wildlife, we get pleasure and memories from it, but we don't really give back. So I think it's a moment now that people should go, okay, let's see these places, let's have an emotional connection, and maybe give something back as well.
And that's something, you just nailed it on the head there. When you mentioned that all these things, the materialistic things that we own, they mean nothing even in confinement now. I mean, what is it that we as people, as humanity, can do once we come out of this situation and learn from it, and also appreciate a different way of travel? Perhaps air travel will not be the same as it was before, and there will be new novel ways of going around. And I just read an article by UBS, they're saying that trains will be back into popularity. So, and also chartering yachts. What kind of yachts will we have? Will they now be driven by renewable energy, or all these things that are in the pipeline now that people have time to think about? And especially you as travel experts, I'm sure, very excited about what you can come up with together with the various industries that support the travel.
Oh, we have all sorts of incredible initiatives. For example, there's a company who has reinvented the blimp, the Zeppelin, which was obviously made infamous by the Hindenburg disaster. And this is an incredibly environmentally clean way of traveling. You can travel vast distances, about 70 knots, but as a straight line, you can get from Northern Europe and Norway to the North Pole in about a day and a half. And you do it in total silence. You're looking down at the ground below. There's a build-up. There's this, our world has become, in this age of consumerism, it's all about as many experiences you can have as quickly as possible. It's tick, 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 tick. And I think, something that we've always done, we've always been quality over quantity. We have a big team, we have 20 plus people. We may even do, we might only do 15 to 30 trips a year. All those people, based in an office in central London, dedicated to creating some of the best programs, experiences on the planet. You don't need to go away every weekend. You don't need to, use that carbon footprint wisely and go and do something big and meaningful, really engage in a place. The one argument, could I say, maybe disagreement I have with my clients is the amount of time that they allocate to their trips. If you're going to spend the time, the money, the resources, sometimes there's hundreds of people involved with the project. It could take over a year to plan it. And you only go into that location having flown halfway around the world to meet your friends and your family for 5 or 6 days. You barely settled in. You have to remove yourself from the digital side of things, that umbilical cord of data, of Wi-Fi on your phone. And that will take 3-4 days. And then you've got to get into the mindset, oh my God, I'm going to return back to this rat race. So you need that time in the middle to actually get a sense of what's happening. To give an example, we have this charming client who's a young lad. He's in his early 20s. He's just finished his MBA, and he has a very long-standing family business, which he will go into. But he wants to take some time off when he finishes, his MBA, which is, and he wants to go and see the world and look at conservation projects. And then whichever conservation projects he likes, we've helped him select them out of a short list of 100 down to 30. His family's philanthropic trust is going to support. And to start off with, he has 5 months. He wanted to go everywhere. And I said, look, just hold on. The world's a big place. Let's put it to 2 regions, because you need to immerse yourself. You need to fully understand. And I think that's the sort of mentality you should do, whether it's conservation or just a family holiday, not so deep and meaningful, it's time, it's quality over quantity, I think, is the way that things, and we look at the mass production of everything. You can click on a button on Instagram and you can have 1,000 different choices of scented candle or light shade or whatever it is. And the throwaway mentality, we should think about building things and making things that last. So it should be the memories. And if you underpin those memories with long, meaningful experiences, you really get to know the local cultures. You really get to connect with the experts, the conservationists that we bring in. You really get to connect with the people you're with. Then that'll never end. That memory is locked away up there forever.
Sounds like we're booking ourselves into a trip with you there, Henry. Amazing energy and really inspiring. So what makes the DNA of a modern adventurer like yourself?
Oh God, I think if you looked at some of the ingredients, I don't know, they probably come from outer space. I don't know. It's a variety of experiences of life. You know, life has ups, it has downs, and they all push you in a certain direction. I mean, I never intended to get into this world. It all slightly happened by an accident. I mean, I certainly used to read and watch you know, I remember I had a book called Life on Earth by David Attenborough when I was a young child, and I was always fascinated by animals. But you're brought up in an area, you know, I was brought up within a family, and, you know, there was a sort of an expectation you should go into the city, you'll be a lawyer. And so you sort of follow that track. But I spent a lot of time in East Africa, in Kenya, when I was in my teens, and actually ended up working out there on a horse riding safari. And that sort of set off an itch that I didn't quite realize at the time, but it was there, and I couldn't get rid of it. And I was working as a banker at Goldman Sachs, and then one day I just had this epiphany. I said, this is what I need to do. And I had a plan to go to Africa. That never happened for various reasons. But, you know, another sort of chance conversation, I ended up doing these incredible experiences. I did 2 expeditions, one to the magnetic North Pole in the Canadian Arctic, and then I crossed the Antarctic using a kite ski to a place called the Pole of Inaccessibility. And that was a 53-day expedition, just 4 of us. So total isolation. So it's sort of preparation for this.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been very social. I've met a huge variety of people in my lives from all walks of life, very sort of quirky and different. And all these little data points just feed in and then just give you ideas. And I have 4 little brothers. And you know, all of them are creative in some way or other. They could all be artists. I couldn't even draw a stick man. So I never saw myself as being creative, but it's only now in hindsight I've been told by enough people, actually, well, your creativity is not being able to transpose something from your hand onto a piece of paper. It's what you have up here and being able to see a landscape, to see an area, to look at a map, to speak to a few people, and then create an experience about it. And it took me quite a while as the company grew, and it started off just from me, and then more people came on board. I used to get frustrated because people wouldn't be able to replicate what I was doing. But what I found out that I could see this stuff so easily when I'd explain it to someone. For me, it was just so blindingly obvious. For them, it wasn't so apparent. So in time, I've learned to identify people who are more attuned to what I'm about, and also I'm more patient. I've spent more time actually, you know, getting that image and that vision across.
Yeah, well, that's the sign of a true entrepreneur and creative soul, because it's all within, and then trying to translate it sometimes is quite a challenge. So you've got a good team that's managed to do something. Well done.
They're a great team. They're fantastic. They really are.
Oh, fantastic. And tell me, so you've met, how many travel experiences have you personally been engaged with?
Oh, I don't actually know. I met someone the other day who'd been to 130 countries, and I never counted. And I know I'm relatively little traveled. I have traveled a lot, but I've gone back to a lot of locations, you know, repeatedly, and I tend to go to the more remote locations, which are harder to get to. And also, I've been very lucky. My parents used to be in travel as well. They had a villa rental company, so we had a house in Greece, which we still have, and so I was out there every summer. So because of that, I didn't travel widely in Europe. You know, I think I've been to 83 countries.
Okay.
But then quite a few of them are ones that people have barely heard of. And, you know, Antarctica is, you know, obviously people have heard of it, but it's one that, you know, I've been there 5 or 6 times now. So there's still a huge amount I want to see. And, you know, because of this coronavirus, I was meant to be in Socotra, which is a small island off the Yemen, which for a long time has been unsafe. The security has now improved drastically. And I was due to go there in mid-March. But literally the day that we're due to fly, very complicated logistics to get there. Corona really came in, and that sort of put that on pause. You know, everything's on pause, nothing's been cancelled. That's the way that we're looking at things. Yeah.
I think it's important to also say, and I'm very much involved in the wedding business as well as a wedding planner, a second hat. And what we're telling our clients is very much postpone, don't cancel, just postpone. This is a little bleep and a chapter that's going to have to be overcome, but the dream will still go on. And, you know, that's important that people still maintain that. And it's also good for their mind and to keep positive and keep inspired and have those dreams come true with the help of others to make them happen, of course.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and to use a well-coined term, the herd of unity, but herd mentality. You know, if we all think negatively and things aren't going to carry on, then, you know, it will fuel, it'll be a catalyst for the next step, the recovery. And the way that recovery goes is how people deal with it. And people might think that travel is frivolous and it's not the top priority. Well, there's not a person I've spoken to, and this is not just clients, this is peers, family, peer groups and family, who said, I can't wait to get away. Maybe that might seem an indulgence, but there is actually a very stark reality as well. Tourism is worth 10% of GDP, a huge proportion of our industry, of our world turnover. And for the likes of us, sitting in London, we're okay. It's tough times, but we have a roof over our head, we have food, we've got Amazon Deliveroo, all these amazing things, online therapists and trainers and you name it. But the people who are actually servicing on the ground, there are communities everywhere. There are wildlife conservation projects, which a sole sense of income is through tourism. Yeah. So if we don't start traveling quite soon, those people are not going to be putting food on the table. The environment, the conservation side of things is going to really collapse. So we're going to leave the world in an even worse place unless we, there is a sort of responsibility to travel, to ourselves, to have that breakthrough, to sort of clear the air after, the confinement we had, but also to support these people around the world. And I think that's really, really important. So, those clients who are due to travel, currently, almost to a one, they've all postponed. And, we're slowly talking to clients about potentials going on. It's still at the moment a little bit wait and see. Our governments, our authorities are still working out exactly how to deal with the next steps and counter the current threat. But, once things start normalizing a bit, I don't think there's anything immoral about at least thinking about what next for traveling.
That's good. Well said. And so what's the next place you're going to be going to then? I mean, is it picking up from where you left off, or is it completely taking it back to the drawing board and going somewhere else?
We've got projects in the Pacific. We've got submersible diving projects linked into conservation in the Pacific. And again, was due to go off in June. We're just sort of waiting, and we're going to postpone it until it's safe to travel. The last thing we want to do is people flying in and then contaminating local people. So, we're just, like everything we do risk assessments. Risk management is the absolute top thing. So, it has to be done responsibly. We're talking to families who are looking to go and take a private island, other people who want to go and do a diving trip. All sorts. That's the beauty of what we do. We don't pigeonhole into any particular trip. That the range of things we do is just insane. I mean, we've had in the last 12 months a lady who wanted to ride around the world on a horse. This young lad who wanted to do his conservation project. I said submersible expeditions. We have rally trips. We've done big birthday celebrations in Africa for sort of 30 people. 8 helicopters flying them out to little secret locations for parties and things. To a family doing a 4-month sabbatical with tutors and conservation projects and social welfare projects, even having their board meeting, on a riverboat in Myanmar. So, there's all these incredible things. And then there could be the more normal, 5-day adrenaline hit up in Norway for a group of guys. We've got a guy who wants to go and look at the origins of Islam by Tao. So it's there's nothing that we don't look at.
Really?
There's lots of normal stuff, boat trips and private islands and things, but we pride ourselves with doing the more unique, out of the ordinary, complex. Give us that challenge.
Absolutely. Wow. And I like that. That's what your USP really is. It's sort of out of the ordinary, out of the box, and really going for the adventure side. And that's amazing. So hopefully we'll be able to experience some of your cool adventures in the future. And one last thing I wanted to ask you is, what would be your top 3 tips for somebody who's planning their next adventure? What do they have to think about?
What do they have to think about? Okay, so think about what's held you back in the past. What we all have boundaries, we all have fears, and perception is everything. For us who are well traveled, just to pop over to Africa for a long weekend is fine. For other people, they may have never left Europe. So just think about what has held you back. Think about what's grabbed and resonated with you while you've been watching the television, while you've been flicking through a magazine, looking at Instagram, and then speak to your friends, speak to your family. Who do you want to join with these things? I've done a lot of trips on my own, doing research for clients and for my own travels, but there's nothing better than sharing it with someone. So think about, maybe you have a very tight-knit group of friends, but maybe they're very much sort of in that mind zone right now, I'm going to take a villa in the Balearic Islands, or I'm only going to go to Florida. Well, maybe spread your wings a little bit and speak to friends who are a bit more eclectic, a little bit more risk-taking. And by risk, I'm not saying doing anything dangerous, but going something a little bit further than what you're used to, and get that conversation going. We all know how we've found ourselves in new careers, new relationships, new experiences, just from that offhand conversation that you might have had at a dinner table, or even on a train, or on a plane, or whatever it might be. So start those conversations and go, well, what if, if we had all the time, if we had all the money, well, where would we go? And then work back. Start with your dreams nice and high, and then you can just scale back to something which is, in between what your previous comfort zone and what that dream is.
Fantastic. You should be a motivational speaker, by the way. I'm really revving to go.
Well, I'll play this back because I need some motivation to keep my discipline going during this lockdown. I just I've got my rowing machine here, and I have a paddleboard that I go and take onto the canal in London. It's the perfect form of isolation, exercise / meditation. So.
That's wonderful, Henry. Thank you so much for coming on and all your insights. And if anyone wants to connect with you or the company, where do they go?
So we have all the use. We have Cookson Adventures on Instagram, or Cookson Adventures website. Or we have an email, info@cooksonadventures.com. All the contact info's there. There's a booking, there's a contact form, and the team are there, and they've got all these wonderful ideas. And the best thing is a conversation. We don't have anything off the shelf, nothing planned, nothing packaged. We have examples of old trips. But every trip that we do starts from a conversation. Normally it's face to face. Right now it has to be done through digital. But it's helping eke out those ideas that maybe you didn't know you want to do. We have the range and the experience, so let us draw those out. You give us the seed and we'll help you grow it. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Henry. And I wish
you
the best for you and the team in the next few weeks that are lined up. But it's great we get to brainstorm and really get at it to come out better and stronger at the end of it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. And our next broadcast, I think we should do live from some remote exotic place, which will inspire lots of people.
Absolutely. Yeah. I especially love the submersible photo that I used, and lots of content there. So let's watch this space and come soon.
We'll do a combined wedding honeymoon somewhere.
Fantastic. I'm getting for that.
Okay. You take care.
Take care. Thanks so much for watching.
Right. Bye-bye.
This was another episode with Luxury with Natalia. More episodes coming soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.